Righteousness doesn't have to be popular. It just has to be righteous.
Today I have signed a letter to Congress to make clear that if they send any legislation to my desk that weakens the protection of human life, I will issue a veto.
Tens of thousands marching today in our nation's capital. They're there to protest the 1974 Supreme Court Roe versus Wade decision, advocating for women to choose life, not abortion. But this is how the liberal media framed today's event. The Washington Post headline saying, and I quote, "March for Life says it's pro-science despite medical consensus favoring abortion access." Here now to react, Tony Perkins. He's the president of the Family Research Council, and Mike Kelly, my good friend and the congressman from Pennsylvania's 3rd District. Gentlemen, great to see you both. Tony, first to you. By the way, the march, the longest running march in Washington, successful. Americans have a belief, a right, they exercise it, and they do so peacefully. And yet they're attacked for their beliefs.
Well, David, I'm glad you didn't get your numbers from the media. I was there, and it was tens of thousands of people there. The media reports, in fact, I think one of them said it was over 1,000 people. I guess they're safe. It was tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. And you're right, it's been going on for 46 years, 45 years as people show up for these marches. And it is a message that we want to see the court reined in when it comes to the issue of life, but it's more than that. It is a march to change the hearts and minds of people, which I would say we have seen tremendous progress in the last 46 years. In fact, I believe very soon we will see America once again being a predominantly pro-life nation. And despite what they say, science is on our side.
Well, the headline's a bit disjointed, if you will, Mike, because it really isn't one reference into the other. You were there. We talked about this earlier on my radio show. Your observations.
My observations, and there are so many people that show up in Washington for many different causes. I would just suggest if somebody or anybody who has never been to the March for Life, if you want to see a stark contrast between people who love life, people who have so much peace and love in their hearts, if you were to see that group, and I'm with Mr. Perkins, there's hundreds of thousands there. We talked about it earlier, about it being undercounted, underreported. When you look at the faces of the people who come to Washington, not in anger, not in hate, but in hope that we can reverse a decision that's happened so long ago, and we keep saying, my goodness, in the United States of America, 2,500 to 3,000 abortions a day, we recoil. Anytime we hear of any disaster around the world or loss of life, but with this, we sit back and we watch it happen. Well, it's okay because the Supreme Court said it was okay. But I've got to tell you, it is the faces of those people that you see, all age ranges, by the way. And I was in Mass this morning. It was just so good to sit there among a group of people who were there for the same reason, and that was pro-life.
All right, so gentlemen, we have the Women's March coming up. And Tamika Mallory, one of the organizers, now this is a march that has fallen apart after the obvious, the public images of Linda Sarsour, the relationship to Louis Farrakhan. And Tamika Mallory, by the way, let's watch what she had to say when she was taken to task.
Well, I call him the greatest of all time. I didn't call him the greatest of all time because of his rhetoric. I called him the greatest of all time because of what he's done in Black communities.
By the way, that is a reaction, and I guess you want to call it a statement about Louis Farrakhan, one of the most hateful people in America. Tony, First Amendment rights, right to advocate for your cause, but the Women's March has been violent, it has been vile, and yet they're falling apart, and the March for Life isn't.
You're right, absolutely. As Mike was saying, I was there at the march earlier today. I've been the last 15 years. I've been at the March for Life, and unfortunately, one time I got caught up in the Women's March. Wasn't there intentionally, but I will tell you there is a stark contrast. And it's not just stark contrast in the marches and the behavior, but really in the underlying ideals. And as Mike was saying, we are marching for life. It's hope. It's love. They were criticized. We're criticized today because of the embracing of science, and the science does underscore the potential and the presence of human life. And the left, they're mocking that, but the left treats the science like a smorgasbord where they can pick and choose what they want. And when it comes to babies and bathrooms, they reject science flat out.
All right, Mike, we've only got a few seconds left, my friend. A message to the folks out there from you.
I would just say, look at the stark difference between the people and who comes to Washington, for what reasons they come to Washington. There is an incredible passion for life in this country. There always has been. David, after the march left the Capitol today, there were no trash barrels that were upset. There was nothing on fire. There were no windows broken or doors torn off their hinges. It was the coming together of people who love life. What better is the personification of America than that pursuit of life and happiness? It is just so much who we are. You just wonder, at
Mike,
what point do we come to
there.
an
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
Mike,
Tony,
Tony,
thank you.
Thank you both. All right, guys, thank you so much. Coming up,